Welcome to the Show Day podcast. Today is July 5th, 2019. Yesterday, Independence Day, July 4th, no shows on the DCI tour, just parades and other festivities for all of the DCI corps across the board. Tonight, a big night, 4 shows, the first 4-show night of the season. I'll go into that, plus a little bit of a look at what we've seen so far on tour so far this season. So let's jump on in now. So as I said, let's take a look back at what we've seen in the past few days. Here's the world-class leaderboard. No big surprises if you take some things into consideration. Take into consideration that the Bluecoats and Boston scores are a little high. Bluecoats are not 2 points ahead of Vanguard and not 3 points ahead of the Blue Devils. Also, Vanguard's not a point ahead of the Blue Devils. So the placements on here, like move Boston down a little bit, maybe move the Bluecoats. I'm not sure where they sit in with Vanguard and the Blue Devils, but we'll find that out tonight. Adjust a few things, and it makes sense. Crown, I'm not sure there's a ton you have to adjust. They've had off, though, since Saturday in Rockford, so 78-3, that score is going to go up, so there is something to adjust, but I don't know if it's as significant as some of the others are. The Blue Stars also are not beating the Cavaliers right now. I'm going to make that clear. The Cavaliers have not had a show since Monday. The Blue Stars just competed on Wednesday, so really just a few things to consider here. Maybe move the Mandarins and Blue Knights up a little bit. So not a whole ton we can pull from this, but the big thing we can pull from this is Phantom jumped 4 points from a 71 to a 75 on Wednesday night, and they look like they've got stuff. They look like they've got a finalist contending show again, if not a finalist lock. And it's something we did not think we'd see. And if there's one corps I think might be in most jeopardy right now, it is the Crossmen, because the Mandarins are so theatrical and that show's so well done. The Blue Knights, they'll get good. Spirit also has a very good show, and I honestly think when it comes down to it, if Phantom does get their act together design-wise as the season goes on, as it seems like they are, we might see a Crossmen versus Spirit finals battle. We'll just have to wait and see in the coming days, weeks, and month. You see, most corps do have a show tonight, with the exception of the Crossmen and the Madison Scouts. Every single corps has a show tonight, whether that is one of the 4 shows. After tonight, we'll see all 22 corps, with the Seattle Cascades making their debut tonight. I'll dive into that a little bit later. On the open class side of things, here's the all open class leaderboard. I'm not bringing out the finalist leaderboard yet until a little later in the season, because every corps you see at the bottom here, from Legends down to Guardians, and that's a significant number of corps, have not made their debuts yet, and there's not really anything we can pull from it. But when we look at all the corps, all of the corps together, you've got the Spartans at the top at a 60.9. The Blue Devils B is just a point behind. Now, Blue Devils B's score did come 2 weeks ago. They'll be back in action tonight in Sacramento. Spartans, that score came just a few nights ago. They're off now, though, until the middle of the month in Augusta, New Jersey. A few other corps here, 7th Regiment, I would say they're behind gold based on what we've seen. If Blue Devils B and Vanguard Cadets went to open class finals this year, as they have been, but they're not this year, we would see them dominating again. That's what I'm pulling from this. Golden Empire, River City Rhythm. River City Rhythm's on top, but how far are they ahead? That is definitely a question to ask. And the Raiders, a decent show so far on the scoring chart so far this season. Can they continue that? They went down a little bit in their last performance, but can they keep that up? See everybody else here. We get the Battalion Colombians and Legends in action tonight. Heat Wave tomorrow night in Orlando. And then the other 4 corps make their debut by next Saturday in Memphis, with the Guardians being that final corps to make their debut. as I said, 4 shows tonight, the biggest day of tour so far. It's a Friday night, Saturday night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, really every week. Maybe not Sunday every week, but Friday and Saturday really are the action-packed days consistently throughout the season, as we see year in and year out. So the first show tonight, Crown Beat in Lexington, South Carolina. You guessed correctly, it's hosted by Carolina Crown. 7:30 Eastern Time is the Welcome National Anthem. We've got 6 world-class scores here. Jersey Surf, Music City, and the Boston Crusaders were all together up in the Northeast, most recently in East Rutherford at MetLife Stadium. Now they're down in Lexington. You've also got Spirit of Atlanta, Phantom Regiment, Carolina Crown coming from the Midwest where they've been touring, now down to the Southeast. The very interesting thing to note here is Carolina Crown, as I said, with the leaderboard, has not performed since last Saturday night in Rockford. It's now Friday. They are really doing something this season that we really have not seen. They're pausing big time in between shows. They were the Corn residents at the Music for All Summer Symposium in Muncie, and then they had the Muncie show, and then they had that Rockford show, and now they've been off basically from Sunday now to Friday, rehearsing basically on their way down to the Southeast. Now, today, they're in Lexington. Tomorrow, they're in Orlando. Then they're in Valdosta on Monday, but then they're off again until Memphis. So really, they're taking big breaks earlier in the season to really get that show under them. And really, if they succeed, this might be something we see from more corps in coming years. They'll be going head-to-head for the first time since the tour premiere tonight, with the Boston Crusaders. And that's an intriguing matchup to watch. Boston's not necessarily done with their show. When will they start adding things in? They've had a few days off. They had the 3rd. They really have all day today on the 5th, and maybe a little bit of rehearsal time. Not sure what their schedule was on July 4th, but they really are. They're going to come out and they're going to be pretty close to Crown. If they're, as I said with the Bluecoats, if they're within 2 points of Bluecoats, they're good. I think if they're within 1.5 of Crown, they're still in somewhat of a contention for a medal because that show's not finished. Now, Crown, Bluecoats, those shows probably aren't finished either. Phantom and Spirit, we also see them together for the first time tonight. That's really the second but first most intriguing battle with Boston and Crown. Really just a solid lineup competitively in Lexington tonight. And you also have Music City and Surf. Can Surf get past Music City? Something we have not seen in recent years. Second show, DCI Capital Classic Core Show in Sacramento, California. This one gets underway 7 o'clock Pacific time. First group performs at 7:10. Sound Sports Group, the Alisal Community Art Network Marching Band from Salinas, California. We got 3 open class scores here. The Blue Devils C, Blue Devils B, and Vanguard Cadets lineup we saw earlier in the season. At intermission at 8:05, 8:35 things get back into action with 2 world-class scores, Pacific Crest and the Mandarins. I believe it's the Mandarins who perform the encore at 9:09, and then somewhere around 9:34 scores will be announced. What are we watching for here? There's different things. Vanguard Cadets, they had not learned their final movement of drill in their first few shows. Now I'm sure they have that out. Can they pull closer, maybe even past Blue Devils B? Those 2 corps honestly have nothing to lose. With them going to championships, them being beat by let's just use the Legends in past years, maybe looks a little bad. This year, just come out flying and keep rocketing up. Usually we see them get to a 65, 64, 63 at this event. And also, Pacific Crest, they've got to get up the rankings. You've got to get them to a 67, 68 tonight. I might be shooting a little high, but I feel like that's a realistic expectation for that core with the performance quality I was seeing from them last weekend in Pasadena on Flow Marching. And then the Mandarins here, that show's still got work to do. They've still got a little bit of the theatrical piece that they've got to put into that. It's very theatrical already, but they've still got to add a few things to make it make there be more moments in that show, and I think they're definitely working on that. They've not had a show really all week as Pacific Crest, same thing. So it'll be very interesting to see how that show has progressed score wise and also on the field wise since we saw them last weekend, their last show being in San Bernardino. Third show, Cavalcade of Brass in Lisle, Illinois. This is really an action-packed lineup, and this really is a very, very, very intriguing event. All-time Central Time on here, 7 o'clock, Welcome National Anthem. 7:10, we've got one core in the Legends. Really everything you see on here is somehow intriguing. The Legends, first show of the season. Do they come out and score like some insane score? Or do they kind of score where they've been? Or maybe do they fall a little bit below where we've expected them to be? Any of those are possibilities. I don't think they're really going to fall much. I don't know necessarily if they're going to come out insane score-wise. But if they're somewhere in the range of where we have seen the Spartans and also above where we've seen 7th Regiment, Golden Empire, Gold, those corps, they're in a good place. Now moving on to World Class after the Legend, you've got the Academy and Colts. I'm really going to break this down into a bunch of different groups. Got the Academy and Colts. The Academy, we've not seen them with these Midwest corps so far this season. They've been out west and really standing alone. The Troopers have been pulling close to them, and that's saying something because the Troopers are not really near the Academy show design-wise, but performance quality-wise, especially musically, they've been pulling close. The Troopers not here, but the Colts are. These two corps sitting outside of finals, and they're going to have to do something to get into finals. They're not guaranteed a spot this season. The Academy, the Colts, they're kind of far out right now. They've got to take risks with their design as this season keeps going, and not necessarily we'll see that tonight, but it'll be very interesting to see how they match up tonight in their first head-to-head meeting since the Colts upset the Academy in semifinals last show of the season last year for 14th place. Next group here is the Blue Stars and Cadets. Blue Stars came out with a great score on Wednesday night in Cedarburg, Wisconsin, passing the Cadet score from Tuesday at MetLife. Can the Blue Stars pull off the huge task of getting past the Cadets? I don't really think so this early. If that would happen, I think it would happen later. But really, you can't rule anything out. They still were close. The Blue Stars were close to the Cadets at the tour premiere, and they definitely could make that up now. Bluecoats and Vanguard, the most intriguing thing we see tonight, I think. Two title contenders. Who comes out on top and how much is it? And then also the Cavaliers, where do they fit in? How close can they get to those top two, and how close are they to those Cadets and Blue Stars? And the final show tonight is Drums of Fire in Camas, Washington. You've got 7 corps in attendance here. Not necessarily the most awesome lineup, both quality-wise and also competitively wise. 2 open class corps making their season debut. The Colombians, the Battalion. Those 2 corps, let's say they came to open class championships the past few years, they have been proving early in the season to be putting up scores near 60. That's big because early in the season when you're scoring 60 like they've been doing, it's really good. And if they ever, I'm not saying they don't have it, but if they ever gain the financial stability and maybe the member dedication that maybe they need to do that overall tour, either of these corps, I think especially the Battalion, would be real title contenders. And seeing what they're putting out so far this season in photos and some brief videos, they look like they're improving, which is big for those 2 organizations, 2 relatively new organizations in the drum corps community. Another corps making their season debut tonight is the Seattle Cascades. They also seem to be coming out pretty good this season. They do have some holes that they've been looking to fill. I'm not sure what their progress with that has been. We saw Surf come out very, very better than we've seen them. 4 points higher than we saw them in their first show in the past few years, basically on average. Cascades, if they can do something similar, that's also a big step for that organization. Don't expect everything to be finished for them necessarily, though, in the coming days. They have a whole week off between Denver and San Antonio. They don't have any shows in there, so that will be something interesting to see during the season. Also, Genesis, they've been struggling a little bit this season. Performance quality, a little bit show design-wise. If the Seattle Cascades pass Genesis tonight, it's gonna be surprising, but I'm also would not be extremely surprised. Also, the Troopers, can they score higher? The Troopers are the only core tonight. I'm trying to compare to everybody else. Can they pass where the Academy is tonight? Can they maybe pass where the Colts, also the Colts, score in Lyle? And also, you've got the Blue Knights and Blue Devils here. Blue Devils, if they break high into the 80s, and I'm saying high as in 83, 84, the Blue Devils are the title favorites. If the Bluecoats defeat Vanguard tonight, that's also big. I don't know how big it is if Vanguard defeats the Bluecoats. I think you can follow me there. So, thank you for watching this podcast today. Just a few things. Make sure to visit my website, drumcorpscentral.weebly.com, for all the latest updates from the DCI and DCA Summer Tours. Scores, schedules, leaderboards, and more will be all found at my own personal website about all things drum corps. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Drumcore Geek, and subscribe to the Show Day podcast on YouTube, where this podcast, plus more as the season goes on, will be posted. And finally, leave your thoughts in the comment sections. Questions, input, comments, etc., all greatly appreciated. I want to thank all my viewers again, and listeners for watching, listening when you guys get the chance. I greatly appreciate it. So thank you for watching. Have a great Friday.